Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create a card from the catalog. So once a week, I like to share how to create a card from the catalog. Sometimes I change it a little, sometimes I change it a lot. Today, I'm going to be changing the stamp set, the dies, and the colors. So I'll be changing quite a bit on this card. It can be found, by the way, on page 59 of the 2021-2022 annual catalog, and it's this one right here in the center. This is a quick and easy card. So I'm actually going to make 2 cards from the catalog today, so you can just see how quick they are. And I'm using the same stamp set and the same designer series paper for both cards. That way you just have a little idea of things to do with the stamp set. The stamp set that I'm using is color and contour, and I am using the dies that go with that. And then the designer series paper that I'm using is this fun designer series paper. It's called All Together, and it has plenty of sheets that you can color or use your blending brushes to do like an ombre effect maybe on something like these. Or you can use your favorite coloring tools. For me, most of the time, that's Stampin' Up's blending, Stampin' Blends. Totally blanked on that for just a second. I love coloring these papers with the Stampin' Blends. These were designed to go with the new natural Stampin' Blends, because you can use all of those great skin tones on these designer series paper. Aren't those fun? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these away. There are 24 patterns in this paperback. So you get, there's 4 sheets, or 4 of 12 sheets, and each sheet is double-sided, so that gives you 24 patterns. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is, I've already cheated a little bit, gotten a little ahead of myself. I'm using this border die from the Scalloped Contours dies. So I went ahead and used some of this Post-it tape to tape down either end of the die, just to keep it from getting crooked as I run it through my die machine. And I am using my mini Stamp Cut and Emboss machine for this. You can use this machine for most of this die set. The biggest one, this one here, will not fit through this die machine. You have to have the big machine for this one, but everything else you can use the mini machine for, which is great because I like to keep this one just at my desk. And this month, March 2022, this is on sale 20% off. My tape isn't sticking. Let's see what we can do. It's sticking to the designer series papers. That's all I really need. I just want to make sure it's completely on this bottom plate. So if you're thinking that you might want this little mini machine, then there's a link where you can shop this machine and all of the bundles that are on sale with it this month. I love it. It just folds up and tucks right in my little cart that I keep beside my desk. Alright, so I'm going to pull this off, and then we have a nice border along the edge of our designer series paper. Okay, so then for the card base, I have Coastal Cabana. I'm just going to go ahead and glue this right on it. So the Stampin' Up's brochures, their catalogs, all their publications, it's my favorite place to find inspiration. I like to, the first thing I always look at is layouts, but I also look at color combinations that are used, techniques. I get a lot of ideas for techniques by looking at those publications. It's just a great place to get inspired if you're feeling a little uninspired when you sit down to stamp. Plus, I just like looking through them when I don't have time to stamp, or if I'm not. So I download the PDF versions on my iPad, and I can flip through it whenever I'm in the car, as long as my husband's driving, or if I'm sitting on the couch watching TV with my family. A lot of times I like to sit and look at my catalogs. Okay, so this is Coastal Cabana Ink, and I'm using this flower to stamp without Stampin' Off or anything. And then I'm going to ink up the inside, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not even going to stamp this one off. So the way I match this up is I find this double flower here, or this double petal, and then I find the double petal here. And that looks good. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. It's not meant to be. Actually, I think I'm going to stamp off this time. So I'm doing that one full strength. Let's see what happens when I stamp off. So I'm inking that one up and then stamping on my scrap paper, just lightly. Much better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do another one just like that. So the first stamp, the outline, is not stamped off, but the inside part is just very gently stamped off. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to grab my happy birthday stamp from Celebrating You. This is a fabulous stamp set to have for all kinds of holidays and life events. So just lightly ink this up. You don't want to push too hard. This is a cling stamp, so it's got some red rubber outline that could easily be mashed onto your cardstock if you push too hard when you're inking it up. Just doing my best to center that. Perfection. So this was polished pink that I just stamped that with. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my scissors, and I'm just going to cut around these. I'm not even cutting around them. I'm just cutting them. Well, I'm kind of cutting around them. Just cut them out of that scrap there. And then I'm going to grab my little machine again. Then I'm going to use the flower die to cut out these flowers. So, and what I look for on this is this narrow, can you see that? That narrow little bit. So I find that, and then there's another one over here. So when I line those two up, see how fast that was? That's perfect. So there's one. And there's the other one. So now I'm going to begin by getting out my polished pink open weave ribbon. And I'm going to cut a piece just a little bit longer than my sentiment piece. And then I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals. I think my Stampin' Dimensionals are about empty, so I've gone ahead and pre-cut the edges. So what I'm going to do is figure out where that's going to be placed. So it'll be right about there. And I'm going to put one dimensional on this end, and then one dimensional on this end. All right, then I'm going to put the sentiment on top of that. Egads. There we go. Just centering that up pretty good on top. And then I'm going to get my tear-in tape. You could also use glue dots, or you might be able to use the Stampin' Seal, but you might not, because you don't have a place that you could easily run that Stampin' Seal. So I would maybe not use the Stampin' Seal for this, and instead use the tear-in tape or the glue dots and just put that on the back of the ribbon. So you've got the dimensional on the front and tear-in tape on the back. So then place that where you're wanting it. And your ribbon on the end should be loose. If you want to trim that anymore, you can, or you can leave it that length. I think I'm going to trim it just a little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to take my liquid glue. So I don't know about you, but all these adhesives, I have favorite adhesives depending on what my job is. So like sticking down the ribbon, tear-in tape. Putting down cardstock, liquid glue, unless I want it popped up. And then I'm going to use dimensionals, which I'm grabbing again. So the second flower, I'm just going to pop it up a little bit. And I use every bit of this border that you get around your dimensionals. I don't waste any of that. Okay, so this first card is finished, unless you would like to add something to the inside, which I almost always do. So I'm gonna open, nope, I don't need that, I just need this. Just kidding, I need both. So I'm gonna stamp the outline. There you go. And you can put the flower on whichever corner you would like. So I'm gonna just stamp the inside one off a little bit. I'm stamping off screen over here. I have a damp paper towel, so I'm getting that pink off of there. Or not the pink, the Coastal Cabana, and now I'm gonna stamp it in the polished pink. So this time, my outline is Coastal Cabana, and the color is going to be polished pink. There we go. Okay, so there's the first card. And then now I'm going to show you the next card that we're going to be making. So this next card can be found on page 55. And it's this one right here. But instead of, let's see if I can get that to focus. And maybe not. There it is. So this one is a square card in the catalog, and this little clock means that it's a fast card to make. So I'm not going to make it square. I'm going to make it a standard card size, which in the US is 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And let's just get to it. So I'm using the same Designer Series paper, the All Together Designer Series paper, and I'm going to use a basic black card base. I'm just going to go ahead and stick this down so I don't have to worry about losing my pieces. All right, so it looks like when I cut my, what have I done? So I cut it wrong. So we're gonna improvise. Evidently I cut it 5 1/2 inches by 4 inches. So rather than starting that all over, I'm just setting this down the center. And I cut it just a little long. I don't know if I cut it a little long or if I got it a little crooked, but I'm just going to trim this extra off of the bottom with my paper snips. Okay, that looks good. All right, so then this piece, I'm going to use that Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine again, still using the mini. Grabbing my plate 1 and plate 2. And then I'm not using the largest die, but I am going to use the second largest die. And I'm just going to cut a little base for stamping on. So I want to make sure that my die is on top of this base where it won't cut good. There we go. So this piece is Pool Party. And I'm still going to be using the Polished Pink and Coastal Cabana inks with this. I'm going to take this long flower from Color and Contour. And I'm just going to stamp it in the center, pretty close to the center. Okay, now I'm going to take the inside and I'm going to stamp. I'm going to very gently stamp off. And then I'm matching this bud up with the bud on the top here. Just stamping that. I'm going to let it sit there for just a minute and kind of soak in. So that's a nice pale pink on top of that. And I'm going to keep the pink out. And this time I'm stamping So Proud of You. And again, just barely ink that up. You don't want to get a lot of ink on the edges of this rubber on this cling stamp. So just center that up. There we go. So then I'm going to get the polished pink ribbon again. And I'm just going to fold it over, see how it's looking behind my sentiment piece. And I'm cutting the ends of it. I think I'm going to cut those to match a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to flip that over. And I'm going to do just like I did before. So I'm grabbing a couple of pieces of this Stampin' Dimensional. So I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put one here. So I'm going to overlap that some. There we go. Okay, and something else that I'm going to do, that was silly. The other thing I'm going to do, I'll do in just a minute. Then again, if you don't like how far this is hanging over the edge, you can always trim it again, which I think I'm going to do. This is kind of longer than... Okay. So now I'm going to grab that tear and tape, and I'm going to use 2 pieces this time. The first one I'm going to place inside these 2 pieces of ribbon. So I'm just going to tuck it up right underneath there. That'll just help it to be a little more stable. There we go. And then I'm going to take another piece. Tore it just a little long. Okay, so I'm going to take this piece and put it right along the top here. Okay. All right, so now this one, I'm going to just use my liquid glue. Let's make sure this is going to fit good. Oh yeah, that's going to be great. I might even like this better. We'll see. So I'm just going to place this right here, centered on this Designer Series paper. Then I'm going to take this piece and place it down here where the stem is sticking out underneath a little bit. And there's the front of this card. So boo-boos and all, this one just took a few minutes to make. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that flower stamp again, and I'm going to stamp off, or not stamp off, but I'm going to stamp off the edge of this insert for the inside of the card. So I'm using Coastal Cabana again for the base, and then I'm going to use polished pink again for the flowers. Okay, lining up that bud. And I didn't stamp off that time, but that's okay. All right, there we go. I don't know where my mind is at today. Thankfully, as Bob Ross says, there's no mistakes, just happy accidents. So, and like I say, a lot of times when I make mistakes in stamping, I end up liking the fix better than I liked the original plan. All right, so we could stop there. This is how the cards in the catalog were done. They are pretty simple. And I really like the way these turned out like that. But I also like my bling. So it's up to you. If you don't have bling, or you are just in a hurry to get it done, or you just are not a fan of blinging everything up, then you can just leave it right like it is. I really feel like I need to use my iridescent dots though. My iridescent rhinestones. I haven't used these in a day or two, and that's just too long for me. So let's add a couple. I'm going to put one right here. And I'm going to put one right here. And then on this one, let's use a big one. I'm going to put a big one down here, a bigger one here, and then another one here. I don't want those in a line. Let's put one there. Okay, so what do you think? Bling or no bling? So I love that this set is so versatile. I love that it's so quick. And I love that with this All Together Designer Series paper, since it's all black and white, you can use any color combination you like. So if you don't like this Coastal Cabana and Polished Pink, then by all means, change up the colors. And I would love to see what you do with it. So while I'm thinking about it, whoo, I was close there. While I'm thinking about it, I wanted to let you know that April is the last month for this catalog. That means that the end colors that are going out, they will go out quickly, probably after March. So if there's any end colors that you would like to get, I recommend grabbing those up as soon as you can. And also, if you don't have a demonstrator and you would like a catalog, let me know and I will be happy to put a catalog in the mail for you. This is the month that I'm ordering those catalogs so that I can get them sent out in April. So if you would like one, and like I said, if you don't already have a demonstrator and you're in the United States, then let me know and I'll be happy to add you to my list for catalogs. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you are inspired to get out and create. And let me know if there's a card from one of our current publications that you would like to see made, and I'll do my best to do that for you. Happy stamping!